Good evening. My name is Jim Beal. I'm with Fairfax County Department of Transportation. I want to welcome you to this meeting to discuss the Route 28 Centerville Road Widening project and the noise analysis that we prepared as part of the project. I'd first like to introduce, but before we begin, I'd like to review some guidelines so everyone can participate and get the most out of this session. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube. We will link and share the recording from the Route 28 Centerville Road Widening Project webpage on the county website and online via the County Transportation Facebook page. You're welcome to submit questions using the Q&A function in the WebEx window at any time. We'll do our best to get to all questions, while also ensuring that we get to all the participants. You can find the Q&A function by clicking on the three dots in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If we run out of time, our team will follow up on any unanswered questions with replies directly to attendees or by posting the Q&A on the Route 28 project webpage. Please do not use the chat function to submit your questions, as the Q&A function sends your questions to the administrators in the session and helps us keep questions organized and in one place. If you're on the telephone, please hold your questions to the end. We will have instructions on how to ask questions at the conclusion of the presentation. We also encourage you to submit comments to today's meeting using the online feedback form on the website, written feedback, or a phone call, and we'll have addresses for you at the end of the presentation. I'd now like to welcome Sully District Supervisor Kathy Smith to open this meeting with brief remarks.
Thank you, Jim. I just want to thank everybody in the public who's joining us for this meeting. It is an exciting project that will be able to help people get through the region more quickly. And I know we've all been interested to find out the information with the noise study. So I look forward to hearing your questions and seeing you be part of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Smith. We've also invited Supervisor Harity. I don't believe he is on yet, but if he joins us, we will allow him to make, he will make a few remarks. I'd like to introduce several other people on our panel. From the Fairfax County Department of Transportation, the Director of FCDOT, Thomas Shodney, is here. Todd Minix, who is the Chief of the Transportation Design Division of FCDOT, is also here.
Welcome, everybody.
Trevor Henson, who's the project manager for Shirley Contracting Company, who has the design build contract for the project, is here. Eric Dull, who's the project engineer with Dewberry Engineers, who's providing design for the project, is here. Our noise consultant, Skelly and Loy, Bill Caffell with Skelly and Loy, is here. We also want to thank our partners at Virginia Department of Transportation and the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, who are supporting us in this project. We're going to start our meeting by giving a brief project overview, give you some information on the schedule and upcoming construction. We'll then talk about the land acquisition process that's about to begin, and then we'll go in depth into discussion about the noise analysis that we prepared, proposed noise barriers that we're proposing to be built with this project, the barrier design, and the voting process that will be underway within the next month. We'll finally wrap up with questions and answers. The Route 28 widening and reconstruction project will construct an additional through lane in each direction to provide 3 lanes northbound and 3 lanes southbound on Route 28, from just north of the bridge over Bull Run, north to the Route 29 interchange. This is about 2.5 miles of roadway. It also will include shared use paths on both sides of Route 28. The total project budget is $78,782,000. This includes preliminary engineering, right-of-way, construction, inspection, and other administrative costs. Fairfax County Department of Transportation awarded a design build contract to Shirley Contracting Company in June of 2020. The project is scheduled for substantial construction completion on December 31st of 2022 and final construction completion in the spring of 2023. Based on the 100% design, which we just completed, this table shows the estimated right-of-way requirements. For the roadway itself, we're going to need right-of-way and possibly also easements from 19 parcels. We're going to need easements only from an additional 25 parcels. Both the right-of-way and the easements are going to be fairly narrow strips of land along the existing Route 28 right-of-way, varying anywhere from 2 or 3 feet to 10 or 15 feet in width. We will also need to acquire right-of-way for the stormwater management ponds. This will include 3 total acquisitions and 1 partial acquisition of 4 different parcels. There's no demolition or removal of residential or commercial structures proposed. We will not be taking any houses or buildings. We will have utility relocations, which will require some additional easements. Land acquisition must be completed in accordance with Federal Highway Administration, Virginia Department of Transportation, and Fairfax County procedures. Plats will be prepared showing easements and a right-of-way needed and will be shared with the landowners. Appraisals will be conducted in accordance with county, VDOT, and FHWA requirements. A land acquisition agent from the design build team will contact each property owner to negotiate a fair market value for easements and or right-of-way that's needed. Negotiations with property owners cannot commence until VDOT and FHWA authorize Fairfax County DOT and the design build team to do so. We anticipate the initial right-of-way acquisition for the stormwater management facilities will begin in the summer of 2021. This initial acquisition includes 3 full parcel acquisitions and 1 partial acquisition. The remaining land acquisition will begin in summer or fall of 2021. Although we've just completed the 100% design documents, construction on the project has been underway for a couple of months. We surely recently completed an advanced temporary shoulder strengthening to allow for traffic to shift and other construction to take place. They've also completed advanced mill and overlay of the existing lanes, which address deteriorating asphalt on the roadway. And they've installed shifted temporary pavement markings to facilitate the widening activities. Through June, Shirley will also be providing temporary traffic barrier placement from the southern limits of the project, just north of Bull Run, to Green Trails Boulevard. You can expect continuing daily lane closures Monday through Thursday from 9:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. and Friday from 9:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. Later this summer, Shirley plans to begin additional construction activities, which will include clearing and grubbing from the southern limits of the project to Green Trails Boulevard, erosion and sediment control installation, storm drainage installation, and excavation activities. No construction will occur on private property before land acquisition occurs. The county and the contractor will coordinate with property owners. Work hours are set by VDOT and Fairfax County, and night work will occur at various times. Shirley has already conducted night work as part of the mill and overlay that repaved Route 28. The contractor must maintain pedestrian and vehicle traffic and signal operation at all times during construction, and no lane closures will be allowed during the peak travel hours. We're going to talk now about noise barriers. We're going to first give you some background on the noise study. We're then going to look at the location of the noise barriers that we're proposing as part of this project. We're going to discuss the architectural treatment of the barriers. And finally, we're going to talk about the voting process. We posted the noise study to the project website. If you haven't reviewed it yet, please take the time later on to do so. It includes the drawings that we'll be looking at in a few minutes. We'll try not to get too technical in the discussion of the noise analysis, but if you have questions about that, please put them in the Q&A and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. Fairfax County prepared a preliminary noise impact analysis as part of the environmental review and approval process in 2019. We presented that to the public at a public hearing in September of 2019. Where project noise levels are projected to exceed established criteria, Fairfax County is required to propose noise mitigation. However, noise barriers will be constructed only if the people who are benefited by them vote in favor of them. The noise analysis that we did and the noise analysis that Shirley completed to reevaluate the results is a computer model that's calibrated to existing conditions. It's based on the design year traffic volumes, which are in 2040, and it looks at the impacts from the loudest hour of traffic. As part of the final design, Shirley conducted a final noise analysis. VDOT and FCDOT have reviewed this and concur with this final analysis. VDOT defines noise impacts as noise levels that are approached within 1 decibel average or exceed the noise abatement criteria, which is 67 dBA design decibels average during the loudest hour of the day. Currently, 37 noise-sensitive receptors, that's to say residences or other receptors, experience noise impacts. By 2040, it's anticipated the number of impacted receptors will increase to 81. It's important to note that the noise impacts are predicted at building exteriors, and the noise study also takes account of elevated structures such as decks in looking at impacts. This chart should give you a better idea of what 66 decibels looks like. This is from the American Academy of Audiologists. And let me zoom in on this. Oh, excuse me. Loud noises are between 70 and 80 decibels. Traffic noise is around 70 decibels. Alarm clocks are at 80. Moderate noises are at 50 to 60 decibels. Normal conversation is at about 60 decibels. And the dark line there is a 66 decibel impact level. So you can see that 66 is basically between traffic noise and a normal conversation. Decibels are measured on a logarithmic scale. An increase of 10 decibels would be perceived as a doubling of the sound level. A 3 decibel sound level change is barely detectable by the human ear. There are 2 abbreviations that you'll see in the noise report that we'll use tonight. Decibel is a measurement of the sound levels. dBA is an average hourly decibel level. And you'll see those used several times just to make sure you're aware of what those are. Both Fairfax County's preliminary study in 2019 and Shirley's reevaluation based on their final design evaluated 10 potential noise barriers in the Route 28 corridor. This evaluation was based on VDOT's 5 criteria of reasonableness and feasibility. First, a barrier must be acoustically effective by reducing levels at impacted receptors by at least 5 decibels average. It must be possible to design and construct the barrier. It must be feasible. The face of the barrier cannot be larger than 1,600 square feet per benefited receptor. As an example of this, if there was a barrier that was 200 feet long and 10 feet high, it would be 2,000 square feet. If there were only one benefited receptor behind that, the ratio would be 2,000 square feet per that one benefited receptor, and it would not meet this criteria. If there were 2 benefited receptors behind it, that ratio would be 1,000 square feet. Since it were under the 1,600, it would meet the criteria, it would be reasonable. The 4th criteria is that at least one of the receptors must achieve a 7 decibel average reduction or greater. And finally, a majority of owners or residents of the benefited receptors must vote in favor of the barrier. Fairfax County's preliminary noise study in 2019 showed that out of the 10 noise barriers, only 2 of them met this reasonable and feasible criteria. When Shirley reevaluated this based on their final design, they found that 2 additional ones met the criteria. These 4 are barrier D1, which is on the east side of Route 28 between New Braddock Road and Darkwood Drive. Barrier E1 on the west side of Route 28, east of Harvest Mill Court. Barrier I1 and I2 on the west side of Route 28, north of Compton Road. And barrier J, located on the east side of Route 28, north of Compton Road. And as you can see, barriers E1 and J are new barriers that were not considered reasonable before. This shows the area general location of barriers D and E. To orient you, this is Route 28. North is to the left. Route 29 and I-66 are in this direction. Prince William County is to the right in this direction. This is New Braddock Road, Old Centerville Road, Centerville United Methodist Church. We're going to zoom in and look at the legend here that'll give you an idea on what we're looking at on these drawings. The orange line here is what's called a common noise environment, or a C&E. And this is the area behind each potential wall that was evaluated for impacts and for benefits. The red line is the 66 decibel contour. This shows the extent of the area that is impacted by the noise from the proposed improvements on Route 28. The yellow and black dashed line is a potential barrier that was found to be feasible but not reasonable. The green and black dashed line is a barrier that was found to be feasible and reasonable, and these are barriers that we're proposing to be built. The noise receptors that we'll be looking at are all single-family houses or townhouses in the area. The ones that are marked with a yellow circle with an X in them are receptors that are impacted by the noise and benefited by the noise barrier. Red circles are receptors that are impacted but are not benefited by the noise barrier. Blue circles are not impacted by the noise from the project, but are benefited by the sound wall. But the sound barrier reduces the noise at these locations. And the green circles are receptors that are not impacted by noise from the project and are not benefited by the sound wall. The only receptors that will be eligible to vote are receptors that are impacted and benefited, the yellow circles, and receptors that are not impacted but are benefited. The vote takes place by the people that are benefited by the sound wall. Going into a little closer detail, this is barrier D1. This is along St. Timothy's Court, just north of Darkwood Drive and south of New Braddock Road. You can see the red line is the 66 dBA contour. So everything between the red line and Route 28 is impacted by the noise from the project. The yellow circles are all the townhouses that are impacted and benefited. The blue circles here are the townhouses behind on the other side of St. Timothy's Court that are not impacted by the noise, but are benefited by the sound wall, that the wall will reduce the noise level on the exterior of their houses. The green circles are areas that were studied, but the noise from the project neither impacts them nor benefits them. This wall extends from about 150 feet north of the end of St. Timothy's Court to this point and runs south to just north of Darkwood Drive. Darkwood Drive, the driveway here will remain open. Moving to the west side of Route 28, this is the area along Harvest Mill Court and Granary Road. Barrier E1 is proposed from a point on Route 28, approximately even with the cul-de-sac on Harvest Mill Road, Harvest Mill Court, and runs south to a point that's even with the tennis courts here. And you can see there are 6 receptors that are impacted and benefited by the wall, and there are 7 receptors in blue that are not impacted but are benefited. This is moving south to the area just north of Compton Road. This is the common noise environments I and J. Route 28 is here again. North is to the left. Prince William County is to the south, to the right. This is Compton Road, and then Compton Road west of the project. Ordway is here. Old Centerville Road is here. And Compton Village Drive is here. And this is C&E-I in this area and C&E-J in this area. This is Cottingham Lane in this area, Skipton Court and Castlewood Court. And you can see that all the townhouses along Route 28, closest to 28, are impacted by the noise from the project, and all but 2 will be benefited by the wall. The blue circles are the receptors that are not impacted by the noise, but will be benefited by the barrier. And the green ones are neither impacted nor benefited. The 2 red circles here are the last 2 townhouses along Castlewood Lane or Castlewood Court. These are impacted by the noise, but because of the physical layout of the project, we can't extend the wall any further. That there is both storm sewer that runs into the street at the corner of Ordway and Compton. There's a sidewalk that runs back and provides a crosswalk across Route 28 and Compton at this point. And there's no way that you can build the noise barrier across that sidewalk or the storm sewer. And if you put a break in it, the noise that comes through from Route 28 to the south and comes across Compton Road would come through that barrier. So there's no way that we can mitigate that by extending the barrier any further. And the barrier where it stops does not provide the full reduction in noise levels for those 2. So those are impacted, but they are not benefited. Barrier J1, this is on the east side, on Pittman Court on the east side of Route 28. The wall here extends about 100 feet south of the southern townhouse and about 150 feet north. We have, we have 9 receptors that are impacted and benefited. We have 3 receptors that are not impacted but are benefited. One of the interesting things about this is that you have this group of receptors that the green ones are not benefited, the 2 blue ones here are benefited. This is basically because the impacts and the benefits are based on both the elevation of the wall, the elevation of the receptors, and sound sometimes can bounce off of roofs and bounce either backwards or forwards. It was a little odd. We asked Skelly and Lloyd to verify that, and they verified that these 2 are benefited and the rest of the green ones here are not. Wanted to make one more comment on barrier I. This barrier is actually 2 separate barriers. We have a 42-inch water main that runs parallel to Centerville Road that will run through this. We didn't want to try to relocate that. So the barrier has been split, and there's about a 50-foot overlap between the 2. Because of that overlap, acoustically, these can be considered as one barrier rather than 2 separate barriers. Excuse me. Fairfax County DOT will contact benefited receptors, the property owners and or the tenants, to start the voting process. Ballots will be sent to property owners and tenants by certified mail and will include a stamped return envelope. Once a barrier has been approved, the design build contractor will perform final design of the barriers that are approved, including the final location, the length, the height, any architectural treatment, under the supervision of Fairfax County, VDOT, and FHWA. And as we've noted, Bill Caffell with our noise consultant is here tonight to answer any questions you may have. The voting process will ask you to vote yes or no on the noise barrier that benefits your residents. You will not be able to vote on all 4 sound barriers. You'll be voting on the one that is adjacent to your residence and provides benefits for it. We're also asking you to vote for a preferred color and an architectural pattern, and this will be one vote that you're asking to be used for all 4 barriers or however many barriers are built. Per VDOT requirements, we're allowing 21 days from the anticipated ballot delivery date for an initial response. Please return your ballots as soon as possible. Only the owners and the residents of those receptors that will be benefited by the noise barrier may vote on whether the barrier should be constructed. This will be only the receptors that are shown on the drawings as either the blue circles or the yellow circles. The owner or the resident of each benefited receptor unit is entitled to one weighted vote, regardless of the number of owners. If there are 2 people that jointly own a townhouse or a house, there's only one vote from that residence. And most important, ballots must be signed by the owner and or the tenant. Please make sure you sign your ballot before you send it back to us. This is a sample ballot that will be sent out. We're asking for I'm losing control of my computer, I'm sorry. We're asking for a vote, whether you support the sound wall, you want the noise barrier system, and then which architectural treatment you prefer and which color you prefer. We also have a space for comments if you'd like to add those. We do weight voting based on several factors. If a property is impacted by the project noise and benefited by the noise barrier, a resident owner's vote is weighted by a factor of 5. A non-resident owner, someone who owns the property but doesn't live there, has their vote weighted by a factor of 3. And a renter of a property has their vote weighted by a factor of 2. For the properties that are not impacted but are benefited, a resident owner's vote is weighted by a factor of 3, a non-resident owner's vote by a factor of 2, and a renter by a factor of 1. This gives you an example of how this works. The yellow receptors are impacted and benefited. So for a resident owner, each owner's vote is weighted by 3. For the blue receptors that are not impacted but are benefited, each owner's vote, for the yellow receptors, each vote is weighted as 5. For the blue receptors, each vote is weighted as 3. And again, the green receptors do not vote, but both owners and renters can vote if they're either impacted and benefited or not impacted and benefited. Voting for each barrier is separate and will be tallied separately for each barrier. Of the votes tallied, 50% or more of the impacted and benefited receptors must be in favor of a proposed barrier for that barrier to be constructed. Fairfax County DOT staff will assess the number and location of opposing votes on a noise barrier by barrier basis. This may result in construction of some but not all 4 of the proposed barriers. It may result in construction of noise barriers despite opposing votes. All ballots must be signed by the owner and the tenant. Color and architectural treatment selection will be based upon all votes received, regardless of which barrier benefits the receptor. Please complete all the questions on the survey, whether or not you support a noise barrier or not, because your vote does matter even if you don't want the barrier at your house. If barriers are built, we want your opinion on what color and what treatment you'd like to be used with them. Again, your vote is very important. We're allowing 21 days from the anticipated ballot delivery date to review and respond to the survey. Ballots will be mailed about June 25th and delivered the week of June 28th. Right now, we're setting a target date to have all signed ballots back by July 23rd. A second mailing is required when the outstanding vote could change the results of the initial survey. A valid vote requires a majority of benefited receptors at each barrier, not just a majority of votes cast. For the second mailing, we'll allow 14 days from the anticipated delivery date to review and respond. Since a second vote will delay the start of construction, we'd really appreciate you returning your vote in as soon as you can, and please encourage your neighbors to vote. We're going to look at pictures of possible barriers in just a moment to give you an idea on what you'll be voting on. We awarded the design build contract for this project based on competitive bids from 3 design build teams. In the bid requirements that we gave each team, we limited the possible architectural treatment of the barriers in order to better define the work that they were bidding on, and so that we could receive competitive and comparable prices from them. Because of this, the only patterns that that are eligible for use on this project are a choice of either the Virginia dry stack or the Virginia rustic brick standard. These are both VDOT standards. Medallions, seals, banners, or other graphic elements that appear in VDOT standard detail drawings are not eligible for use on the project. If more than one barrier is constructed as part of the project, all barriers shall be fabricated using the same face pattern. The same color shall be used on all barriers. Patterns and colors will be provided on both sides of each barrier. All exposed vertical faces of retaining wall elements that are built with the project, and we're going to be building 3 small retaining walls in the project area. All the vertical faces will receive architectural treatments that match the treatment that's selected for the noise barrier walls. The noise barrier posts and the top bands will not be stained, and the posts may be either steel or concrete. Now, this is an example of Virginia dry stack. This is a VDOT standard. You can see the concrete posts, and the top band and the posts are not stained. I'll zoom in on this to give you a little better feel for what it looks like. This shows basically a dry stack pattern in the wall. This is a form liner. It's precast concrete, but the form liner shows up as a dry stack pattern, and it can be painted or it can be stained. This is a similar Virginia dry stack with a steel post. These are not stained yet. This is on Route 28, just north of I-66. The previous one is on I-66 west near Haymarket. This is on 28, just north of 66. And again, to zoom in to give you a better idea. This is a Virginia rustic brick pattern with concrete posts. What we're proposing would be a rustic brick all the way up to the top of the wall. And the top of this and the posts would not be stained, they would be concrete. And again, to zoom in, it shows up as a brick pattern. We will not be using this red brick pattern, this red color on these. We're proposing 3 different color choices that we're asking you to choose from. The 2 on the right, the dark brown and the lighter brown or tan, are being used on Route 28 north of I-66. I don't believe they've been stained yet, but this is what VDOT, the design build contractor, have chosen for those areas. We also wanted to provide a third alternate, so we're proposing this gray, and we would ask you to vote on one of these 3. We'd also suggest that in the next few days, as you're driving around Northern Virginia, look at some of the noise barriers and retaining walls that have been built. Most of the barriers that are in place now on I-66 with the new construction haven't been stained yet, but they give you some idea of what these look like. There are also several barriers and retaining walls on Fair Lakes Parkway and the Fairfax County Parkway in the Fair Lakes area that are very similar to what we're proposing in terms of the Virginia dry stack pattern. So if you do have a chance, drive around and take a look. We'd now like to open the meeting up for questions. I'd remind you, please use the Q&A function to type your question for the moderator to read aloud. This can be opened by clicking on the three dots in the bottom right of your screen. Please do not use the chat function to comment or ask questions. If you're joining us by phone, you can press *3 to raise your hand to ask a question. When it's your turn, the moderator will call on you to ask your question. After you're finished, please push *3 to lower your hand. I'd now like to introduce the moderator for the Q&A session, Jeff Waszewski, who will be reading the questions and we will be responding to them. I also want to thank the meeting host, Leticia Turner, who's working behind the scenes to organize the questions that people have typed and is coordinating the callers who have questions. And Jeff, go ahead.
Hi, Jim. Thank you. We have a few questions already, but we'll go through all of them. And if people have multiple questions, we'll try to go through a couple of them and then come back later towards the end if we have time. We just want to make sure everybody has a chance to comment or question. Just one error I noticed. There was a question started at 7:09 p.m. saying that they have two questions, but then there's nothing else left. So if you could repeat the two questions you had, we'll get back to them. But the next question is, are traffic volumes modeled to increase?
Yes. Our traffic model uses 2040 projected traffic, and the noise study is based on those 2040 traffic volumes. I don't think anyone's really sure with COVID and post-COVID what traffic's going to be like. I think a number of people think that it may be lower than it is now, but we have projected a healthy increase in traffic between now and 2040, and the noise study is based on that increase.
Okay, next question. This question and a comment is, what about the residents that live on Ordway Road? You are in the process of approving the Prince William County Route 28 bypass. This gives the residents of Ordway Road the noise from Route 28 and the noise from the Prince William County bypass. They will have noise from traffic in their backyard and from their front yard.
Our study included, in the first place, the Prince William study is still underway. They have not chosen a final alternative. We do not know where they're going to build that, but that is not final yet. Our noise study looked at potential noise walls on Route 28 south of Compton Road and did not find any barriers there that were feasible.
Jim, if I could just comment on that as well. Currently, the Route 28 plans that Prince William have actually tie into Route 28 in Fairfax, very, very close to the border. So most of the residents on Ordway will not have additional traffic because that traffic will be routed over to Route 28. And so that traffic will be on the east side of those residents.
And any construction that takes place by Prince William will probably also include noise mitigation in accordance with VDOT standards.
Jim, this is Todd Minix. I'll just add to that. When we are looking at what Prince William is doing, we are very concerned about the traffic that is on Ordway Road and Old Centerville, and doing what we can to make sure any traffic that is coming out of the Prince William project is diverted over to Route 28, and trying to reduce the amount of traffic that is going up and down Ordway, both in the AM and PM peak hours. Drive it a lot, and that is a cut through. And obviously we want to reduce the amount of traffic that are on those two roads as much as we can. So by improving 28, both in Fairfax County and hopefully with the Prince William bypass is to get the traffic off of Ordway and Old Centerville and get them on to 28. So.
Okay, I guess that's the answer to that question. The next one is about the voting process. To be clear, if 49% of those impacted all vote in favor of the barrier will not be built.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Just to be clear, if 49% of those impacted all vote in favor of the barrier will not be built.
That's correct. We have to have at least 50% of those impacted in favor of the barrier for the barrier to be constructed.
Okay, let's see, a couple questions or comments asking, can you show the map with the proposed barriers again? Or 2 questions for that.
Okay, this is J1. This is on Pittman Court, just north of Compton Road, west of Centerville. I'll leave this up for a few minutes. This is barrier I1 and I2. This is along Castleford, Skipton, and Cottingham. And I'd also note this report is on the project website. You can pull these drawings up. There's about 30 pages of text, and then these exhibits are right after that text. We'll also post this presentation on the project website so that you can look at this later on.
Okay, and a follow up to the posting.
Hang on.
I'm sorry.
This is barrier E1 on Harvest Mill and Granary. And this is barrier D1 on St. Timothy's Lane. Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, next question. Somebody from the Asher View HOA asking, has it been determined if our fence is going to be affected by this project?
I'm going to hand that off to Eric Dull at Dewberry. Eric, can you check on that? Or do you know offhand?
So I take it that this is the HOA that's right next to barrier E1, the new barrier that's going in?
Asher View, I'm sorry. Asher View is up at, I believe it's up at Upper Ridge, between Upper Ridge and Mackin on the west side.
How about, give me 1 minute and I'll look into that, and can we circle back to that question?
And we may need to respond to you offline on that. If we can't get you an answer tonight, we will let you know.
Okay, next question. Is there a price differential between the different designs and stains or colors?
No. This is a lump sum bid, and the contractor provided a price based on an estimated quantity of sound wall and based on the requirements that we provided them in the bid documents. But there is no price difference between the two.
Okay. Next question is there a maintenance, i.e. refresh the staining consideration or cost for the stain or other choices?
VDOT will be responsible for maintenance of these. I'm sure there is, but it is, that's going to be turned, the project will be turned over to VDOT for maintenance once it's complete.
Okay, next question. The existing trail along 28 South between, was it Machen Road and Upper Ridge Drive has some areas that need to be mowed. Is that your responsibility now or still VDOT's?
I'm going to turn this over to Trevor Henson at Shirley.
VDOT typically does maintenance mowing, and they had just gone through and done their first round a couple weeks ago. If there's specific areas that haven't been addressed, we can certainly take a look at it and discuss with VDOT, or maybe it's adjacent to an HOA property. I'm not sure, but it is worth noting that not in the specific area we're talking about, but there will be construction activity shortly behind barrier, and much of the vegetation will be disturbed soon. But we'll certainly evaluate, and if there's anything that we need to get addressed, we'll make sure that we coordinate that with VDOT.
Thank you, Trevor.
Jim, just to follow up on the previous question,
Yes.
currently our temporary construction easement that we are going to be approaching everyone with is just on the roadway side of that fence. So we are not anticipating with the current design to affect that fence.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. Any changes in maximum speed?
No. It's I believe it's a 45-mile-per-hour design speed, and we are not anticipating changing the speed limit.
Okay, next question. Is it expected that traffic volume on Old Centerville Road will be reduced by the Route 28 widening?
I would have to go back and look at our traffic study to give you a definite answer, but we do think the project will draw traffic off of Old Centerville and bring it on to Route 28, that we're going to. And I'd also say that the Prince William construction, when it takes place, will probably also help alleviate that. But we'll get
Jim,
on that.
Jim, this is Todd. We, off the top of my head, as recalling the traffic analysis, in the near term, we do see estimate that there will be a reduction of traffic on Old Centerville, particularly in the AM. I do know on Old Centerville, there's a lot of PM southbound traffic that is coming off of 29, coming down Machen and then down Centerwood. It's hard for us to get them over to 28 in the PM, but we do anticipate at least some reduction in the AM timeframe in the near term. Again, by 2040, I believe our analysis was indicated we're going to need to widen the road again to 8 lanes eventually. And by that time, the traffic would probably get back up to about where it is right now on Old Centerville. So it's you know, and again, that's a projection. And depending on how things happen post-COVID, does traffic come back to pre-COVID levels and then grow at the same rate? We were basing it on the fact that, yes, that's going to happen, but who knows for sure? So there's no guarantee there.
Thank you, Todd.
Okay, next question. I guess I don't know if this was with the previous questions to look at the maps, but somebody is requesting to see the map the intersection in between Compton Road and Route 28 North in the direction of I-66. I'm not
Compton
sure if
Road
that
and-
was, I don't know if that was with one of your displays of the barrier locations.
This is Compton Road, and we're showing the green line here is the barrier by Pittman Court, and the green lines here are the ones there between 28 and Old Centerville. I will come back at the end of the meeting and we'll bring these drawings back up again and leave them up for a few minutes each.
Okay.
If this is not what you're looking for, please let us know.
Jim, it
Yes.
looks like this is Francisco Torres's question. He has the same question 2 more down, where he's further talking about which house you'd like to look at.
Okay. Jeff?
Yeah, his comment is my house is the second in the last section corner of Compton Road and Route 28 North.
If you could tell us what street you're on. Are you on Pittman or Castleford? If you could put that in the Q&A and we'll come back.
And I'll look out for that. Okay. Next question, will streetlights be put up where there are bike paths? The barrier might darken the area between Old Centerville Road and Route 28 by Compton Road.
We will be putting street lights at the intersections. Basically, we'll be lighting any area that has right or left turn lanes, but we are not lighting the areas between the intersections.
Next question, is a full lane being added on Old Mill between Old Centerville Road and Route 28?
Old Mill between Old Centerville. I believe we're putting in, I'd have to look at, Eric, if you could pull the drawings up, I believe we're putting in eastbound going toward 28. There will be a left turn lane, a through lane, and a right turn lane. Westbound, there's only a single lane there. Eric, if you could check on that, please.
Jim, I can confirm we are not adding a full lane, the full length of Old Mill between 28 and Old Centerville. We're extending essentially extending the right turn lane, putting in a new right turn lane and extending the storage so you have traffic can get over in that right turn lane and avoid people that are trying to take a left or go through.
Okay, next question. It's currently for the construction that is located between Route 66 and Willard Road area. There appears to be scroll work or a concrete flower on several of the panels. Are you saying those are not available for these 4 panels under consideration? It's just a decorative floral looking pattern towards the top of the panel. Am I correct in understanding this?
Yes, we are not providing any kind of decorative panels or decals or medallions.
Okay, next question. When I was Old Mill Community Association president, DPWS came out to look at the flooding between 28 and Wheat Mill Way. They said the drainage would need to be taken care of during widening. Nothing has been done to the best of my knowledge to address it.
I'm not familiar with that. I will check with DPWS and ask about that. We are grading the project. I'd have to look at this to respond. We'll get back to you.
Okay, and next question. What will you do when what we do when Route 28 work will be done about whether to take the bus or take the car while the recommendation people can have alternatives while doing construction? Yeah, the wording was a little off, but I guess, are there going to be bus or shuttle options for people during construction so they'll get off the road?
We are not providing shuttle options. We will not be closing any traffic lanes during peak traffic hours. There will not be lane closures during peak traffic hours. The previous question on Wheat Mill, if you could put in the Q&A when this discussion took place and who you spoke to at DPWS, if you recall that would be helpful. We will look at that and get back to you.
Okay, next question. Will the walking paths be on the inside of the walls or the outside of the walls?
In most cases, the walking paths will be on the roadway side of the wall, on the Route 28 side of the wall. The drawing we're looking at now at barrier I, that the walking path will follow where the water main is and will transition from being on the roadway side of the wall on the north to the back side of the wall as it approaches Compton Road.
I'll just point out the trail in that location is almost exactly the same location as it is now.
Okay, next question. Does the voting process usually result in sufficient voting participation, or do citizens need to inform their neighbors to get them to participate?
It really depends. We are asking you to please talk to your neighbors, whether you're for it or against the barriers. Please ask them to watch their mail and to respond as quickly as they can. We do have to have a majority of the benefited receptors have to vote. And we would like to have this wrapped up without having to do a second mailer.
Okay, next question. Is there any way for the barrier benefiting Pittman Court to be curved around down Compton Road, as there is so much noise coming from vehicles at the traffic light intersection? It's like a drag race every night along both Compton Road and Route 28.
I'm going to ask Bill Caffell if he would address this. And this is the one on Pittman at barrier J1.
Yeah, we're primarily looking at noise associated with Centerville Road, Route 28 widening, going offline and trying to mitigate other roads, with the barriers that are associated with this project that isn't, part of the scope. Certainly there will be some reduction, with the barrier the way it's laid out now, from Compton Road, but that's not something that we looked at was, extending the barrier, off of, perpendicular from 28 along Compton Road.
I'll just add the longer these barriers are extended, going all the way down to Compton, turning and going down Compton a little bit. Now you're going to start bucking up against the reasonableness criteria of the cost of the wall versus how many receptors are benefited. And it's a balancing act when we do that. Extending it further may end up saying, okay, now the barrier is not reasonable, so nobody's going to get a barrier. So again, it's a balancing act in that regard as well.
Yeah, that's a great point, Todd, and particularly with this wall, it's really tight. So from the reasonableness standpoint.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think this particular wall is 23 feet average height. thereabouts. Some sections of it are around
This is-
17 feet.
It's 16 to 27 feet and the average height is 18.
Correct.
But it does have some portions that are a good bit taller.
Oh, and I would point out that barrier is between your existing fence and the road. So your existing fence at that location for that community is not impacted by this wall.
Okay. Next question, is there a proposed traffic signal plan at the junction of Compton Road and Ordway Road?
No, there is not. That does not meet warrants for a signal. And we are widening Ordway in Compton as Ordway curves around. We're going to be providing 2 left turn lanes from Ordway to go northbound on Route 28. And that widened transition will extend about 400 feet down Ordway Road. But there is no signal plan there. We
Okay,
had
next.
looked at we had looked at a number of different options for that. If you have been involved in some of the previous meetings, we looked at 4 different options, and really what we came down to was that because of right-of-way costs and the right-of-way impacts, that the best we could do with this was to leave the roadway alignments where they are. It is not. It's not the best situation, but it's the best we can do right now.
Okay, next question. Let's see, it was asked and revised. Is the cost of the barriers borne onto those that are impacted by the noise or by the Fairfax County taxpayers?
This project is funded primarily from VDOT Smart Scale projects, from federal funds, and from the NVTA. There is a fairly small portion of this that is being paid for by Fairfax County, but it will be paid by taxpayer funds. It is not borne by the benefited receptors.
The next question, during what season was a noise study conducted? If it was conducted during the spring, summer time frame, did the study take into account the natural noise barrier created by the trees?
Bill, can you respond to that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the noise modeling that's performed incorporates, you know, tree zones. But in a situation like this where the impacts are so close to the route, you know, to the road, you would need very thick, you know, trees to provide any kind of noticeable noise, noise reduction. So while we have them modeled in the assessment, it really plays no bearing on the results.
Okay, next question. Right now, the 10-foot fence continues behind the house at 6503 Harvest Mill Court. However, the proposed barrier looks to end at 6505 Harvest Mill Court. What will be done about the fence behind one property? Could the barrier end where the fence currently is?
I'm not sure where 6503 is. The way the barrier is designed, it provides abatement for all the properties that are shown in yellow and blue. And I think that's something we can look at in the final design, but I would say the answer is probably no.
Okay, yeah. Actually, another question about that wall. Will the new wall E1 mean that all of the trees inside the current fence be removed for construction of this new barrier? How much impact will there be to the current foliage?
We will be clearing from the E1 wall will be built directly behind the proposed shared use path, and we will be clearing up to that point. The wall is located, I think it's about 5 feet off of the existing fence. We have tried not to impact the fence. Where the barrier is located, we may need to impact the fence, and if that's the case, we'll be clearing up roughly to where the fence is now, perhaps a few feet behind it. Until we do the final design, we really can't determine that.
Okay, now here's a comment. The best thing that could be done as part of the bypass to lessen Old Centerville Road traffic would be to delete the spur road that connects Ordway to Old Centerville Road. All traffic on the bypass should have to enter/exit onto 28. The spur permits vehicles to use OCR to reach the bypass for Old Centerville Road.
I know Prince William has looked at several options for where they tie into Route 28 and how they handle Ordway and Old Centerville Road. I know we have told them that one of our primary concerns is to try to reduce the amount of traffic that cuts through. We're well aware of the concerns of the residents on Old Centerville Road, and we have discussed that with Prince William County several times, and will continue to do so.
Okay, next question. When will the 100% plans be posted to the project website?
We will post them once we get final approval.
Jim, can you just indicate when you think we will get final approval?
I think it's probably going to be about probably 3 or 4 weeks.
We are hoping. I'm sure Eric and everybody else is hoping we get the final approvals from VDOT very shortly. We've gotten the approval
Yes.
from Fairfax County Land Development Services as far as the storm drainage and stormwater management designs.
Question, this might have been answered previously. Are you improving the right-hand turn lane on northbound Old Centerville Road onto Old Mill?
Northbound Old Centerville. We are not doing any improvements on Old Centerville Road.
Okay, next question. Will there be another mill and overlay of the pavement before the project is complete?
Trevor, do you want to address that?
Sure. The advanced mill and overlay that we've completed to date, everywhere that we have put new asphalt down, there will not be another mill operation. However, it's worth noting everywhere on the project everywhere along 28 receives a minimum of 4.5 inches of additional asphalt. So what we are riding on today is not the final asphalt layer. We will complete all the ancillary widenings and asphalt buildup to meet the proposed grading. And the final asphalt layer, surface asphalt, will be placed at the completion of the job to give everybody a smooth riding surface throughout. So no more milling, but there will be a number of additional overlay operations in the future.
I'll just add that another way to think of that is the current surface of the road. The final surface is going to be about 4 inches higher than that.
In some cases, quite a bit more.
Okay, next question.
Well,
I guess
just to clarify, in some cases, the 2 crest curves that we're going to be fixing that are too sharp a curve, vertical curves. Where they have not done any mill and overlay currently, those sections will be totally rebuilt, and the crests of those curves will be cut down, so you have better sight distance going across over those vertical curves in the road.
And we'll also be building the pavement up in several places to reduce the to increase the sight distance.
And we could talk about this one for a while, but also we've been concentrating on 28 Centerville Road for the bulk of what we're talking about. There will be mill and overlay operations on all of the side streets to tie back in for a few hundred feet based on where you're at. So there will definitely be more milling, but not similar to the operation that you guys saw a few weeks ago.
Okay, next comment is a follow-up from the previous discussion about the person that had DPWS contact them. They said it was around 2010, and they were looking at their storm pond.
Okay, we will check on that and get back to you. Thank you.
Okay, next question is like, do you have a walking trail past Compton Road to the bridge proposed?
Yes, the shared use path continues on both sides of Route 28 from Compton Road south to the last median break before the bridge. And at that point, the trail on the northbound side ends. The trail on the southbound side will tie into the parking lot there at the entrance to Bull Run Park. But the trails both extend almost all the way to the bridge. We had looked at whether to extend across Bull Run. Right now, the bridge does not have any kind of sidewalk. I think there's only about a 1.5 foot curb on either side. Prince William doesn't have any trails or sidewalks on the south side of the bridge, so we didn't see any reason to extend that to the bridge, but we did tie it in to the parking lot that leads down to the trails in Bull Run Park.
Okay, next question. Can you provide any specific details of what factors were not met for a wall on southbound 28 from Granary to Old Mill Road?
Granary to Old Mill. I would say the main factor there was that it did not meet the 1,600 square feet per receptor criteria. Bill, is that correct? Was there anything else?
No, that's exactly it. There wasn't enough benefited receptors to make the wall below the VDOT threshold of 1,600 square foot. So yes, exactly, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. I'm not sure exactly what intersection is pertaining to, but they're asking, how about a roundabout?
We have enough traffic volume. We have high enough traffic volumes on Route 28 that roundabouts are not appropriate.
That may be considering Ordway, Old Centerville, Compton. We did look at that at one point. Again, it came down to cost and right-of-way impacts. At this time, it may be something we investigate later.
Okay, and here's a follow-up to a previous question about the fence. The question regarding the one on Harvest Mill Court address is the northernmost beginning of the fence. So I don't know if that would have any.
If that's referred to EO22, I think the wall is, the barrier is designed such that it provides reduction. It provides the benefit to reduce the noise at that house. We will look at whether there's a need to extend it with final design.
Okay, next question. VDOT will need to compensate the Old Mill HOA for the land for the new turn lane on Old Mill Road. Could funds for this be applied to extend the sound wall to Old Mill Road?
I think that's something we could look at. I'm not sure that those funds would be adequate to do that. But I think part of the negotiations that will take place for compensation for land can include other options besides paying for it.
I would just add that VDOT will not be paying, well, they are providing a significant amount of the funding, but it's the overall project that is paying for the right-of-way. So it could be in VTA funds, it could be, you know, we don't really have which dollar is which color. We can't really say. But there are negotiations that can be done during the land acquisition phase, but applying, I really don't think you're going to see the compensation for that property coming anywhere near what it would cost to extend that noise barrier.
Okay, next question. Somebody, sorry, had to log back in, might have missed this early in the presentation. Are the land parcels that are going to be acquired been identified? And when is the acquisition process going to start? And what are the steps in that process?
The parcels have been identified. They'll be shown on the 100% plans. Land acquisition for the 4 stormwater management parcels will begin probably within the next month. The rest of it, acquisition will start later on this summer or this fall. I know we had talked in the presentation about the land acquisition process. I'd refer you to look at the presentation online when it's posted, which will be in a couple of days.
Okay, next question. We have a creek on our property. Will that be covered as part of any stormwater or management plan?
I would have to know where this property is to be able to answer that. We're building new storm sewers as part of this. We are outfalling to the existing streams as soon as we can, just to tie back into the existing streams. But I really can't answer that without knowing where it is.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, they added their address, 7018 Centerville Road.
We will take a look at that and we'll respond back to you offline after the meeting.
Okay, let's see. Next question, would traffic flow be more rapid if cars on the 28 bypass intersected Route 28 north of Compton Road?
I really don't, I don't have an answer to that, but I think that's not something Prince William is looking at, and it's certainly not something that Fairfax County would support because it would have pretty significant impacts to the neighborhoods there.
Okay, let's see. That's the last of the questions. So if anybody has any last minute ones, try to get them in soon. We definitely don't want to miss out, but Let's see, any more comments? There's one comment, a very nice presentation, very professional. Thank you. I'm impacted and benefited, and it doesn't directly cost me anything. No brainer, yes. So sounds like you have one vote for one of the panels.
We have, we want to do what the citizens ask us to do. Please be sure to vote as soon as you can and return your ballots. Please be sure to sign your ballot and to answer all the questions. And please encourage your neighbors to vote and to vote as soon as they can. It really matters that we hear from you on whether you want these barriers installed. I'm going to go back and scroll through the drawings we had on the noise barriers. I'm going to leave these up for a couple minutes each and let folks just look at them. Jeff, if we get any more questions as we, as we leave this up, please interrupt. Please bring them
Okay,
up.
yeah, I'll be sure to do that. We got one comment. This meeting very useful for residents. Appreciate your support and sharing details for the project.
Before we do this, I want to go back to our final slide. We'll place a recording of the meeting on the Route 28 project webpage. That's at www.fairfaxcounty.gov/transportation/projects/Route 28-widening. Now that's a lot to remember. If you just go to the county's website, fairfaxcounty.gov, and do a search for Route 28, the Route 28 project website will come up. We will respond directly to the participant for the questions we couldn't answer tonight, or we'll post them on the project webpage. If you didn't get to provide feedback, or if you prefer to submit feedback online, please visit the Route 28 project webpage. There's a red feedback form at the bottom of the webpage to contact us. Comments will be accepted through July the 9th. You can also call me directly at 877-703-877-5673. If I'm not there, please leave voicemail and I'll respond to you. And finally, you can mail comments to me directly at FCDOT 405 Legato Road, Suite 400, Fairfax County, Virginia 22033, 2895, attention Route 28. We didn't ask, Leticia, were there any comments on the telephone?
No, there are no comments or hands raised for any of the call-in users at this point.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to thank everybody for coming. Please give us feedback. If you've got questions, please reach out to us, and we appreciate your support of the project and your interest in it. As I said, I'm going to go back and look at the drawings for anyone that wants to review those for a little bit longer.
Yeah, Jim, there was one question that came in for the maps. What is the red line on the plan sheets?
The dashed red line is the 66 decibel average contour. This is the area that is the study shows is impacted by the project noise based on VDOT's definition of an impact, that it's over 66 decibels.
For a lot of those that are still online, in doing this noise, and I live in this vicinity, you're in the flight path of Dulles Airport, particularly when they're landing to the north, headed north. These noise barriers are not going to have any impact or influence on jet aircraft noise. So keep that in mind. The study here is only related to the traffic noise and the noise impacts from the traffic itself. So it's not going to alleviate any aircraft noise that you may have currently or in the future.
Okay, and here's a follow-up question from the last one regarding parcels that are going to be acquired. And I'm not sure if we can answer it, but can you please show a map which has all of the land plots that are going to be acquired?
We don't have that prepared yet, but we will post that with the 100% plans. It will show the parcels that will be acquired. There will be a sheet on that. These drawings are about 300 sheets total, but the second or third sheet of the plans is a right-of-way data sheet that will show the parcel numbers and show a reference on the plans to every parcel that will be required, whether it's a full acquisition, whether it's right-of-way or easement, or a combination of them. So that will be forthcoming on the project website.
And we just got a follow-up question regarding the parcels. Any time frame when these acquisitions are going to happen? I believe you answered that already, but
The 4 stormwater management parcels, which are 3 full parcel acquisitions and 1 partial acquisition, negotiations should begin within the next month. The design build teams, land acquisition specialists will reach out to the owners and begin negotiations on compensation. The remainder will probably start, I guess, within the next 2 to 3 months. I know they've gotten appraisals done on all 4 of the stormwater ponds, all 4 parcels. Those I think have been approved by FCDOT. One of them still under review, and they've just provided plats and appraisals for the first of the partial right-of-way and easement takes on the rest of the project. There's a total of about 55 different parcels, so I think we've gotten. Trevor, do you know how many we have appraisals done on?
I think it's between a third and a half are done.
So they're doing that. We have to have VDOT approval of to proceed with right-of-way acquisition. We've made that request for the stormwater management parcels. They have not approved that yet. We're anticipating that. We hope within the next 2 weeks. And then we have to, again, to submit a request for the additional easements. But that should be starting within the next couple of months. Okay, we're going to go back to the last slide again, just to give everyone a chance to see the contact information. And one last chance for any further questions. Okay, again, I want to thank everybody for coming. We appreciate your attendance. And do give us comments, give us any feedback, and if you have further questions, please let us know. Again, thanks everybody, and hope we can see you in person soon.